Commander Rylan stood tall inside the starship Eclipse, his armor reflecting the soft blue glow of the control room lights. The vastness of space stretched before him, endless stars and the distant green curve of the alien planet Valoria. His mission was simple, yet the weight of it pressed heavily on his chest. Protect the Valorian princess at all costs. The message from High Command had been short and clear, but something in the Admiral's tone told him this mission was different. He had guarded leaders, diplomats, and generals before, but never a princess, and never one from another world. When the airlock opened, a cold mist flowed into the chamber. Rylan turned, expecting a formal greeting or a royal guard, but what stepped in made him forget how to breathe for a moment. The princess was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her hair shimmered like moonlight mixed with silver, falling over shining gold armor that looked both delicate and powerful. A crown of fine metal rested on her head, and her eyes, glowing faintly with a soft violet light, met his with curiosity instead of authority. "You must be the human soldier they sent to protect me," she said with a half-smile. Her voice light and teasing. "So serious already. Do humans ever smile?" Rylan straightened, trying to sound professional. "My name is Commander Rylan of the Terran Fleet. I've been assigned to your protection detail. Your Highness." The princess tilted her head, walking slowly around him, examining his armor as if she were studying some strange creature. "Protection," she whispered, her tone thoughtful. "Do you really believe I need protection, Commander?" Rylan didn't answer immediately. He had been warned that Valorians were unpredictable, proud, emotional, and impulsive. Still, he felt something strange in her words, something more than arrogance. "It's my duty," he replied finally. "Whether you believe you need it or not." She laughed softly, a musical sound that didn't belong inside a steel ship. "Duty, humans and their duties." Then, without warning, she reached out and touched the chest plate of his armor, tracing one of the golden lines with her finger. "Cold metal," she murmured. "How do you breathe under all this?" Rylan froze. He wasn't used to anyone, let alone a royal, breaking the line between soldier and sovereign. "Please, Your Highness," he said quickly, stepping back. "It's better if you don't." But before he could finish, she smiled at him in a way that made his heart stumble, and then she vanished. Not turned away. Not walked off. Vanished. Gone in a pulse of faint blue light that left a shimmer in the air where she had stood. "Princess Lyra," Rylan shouted, spinning toward the door. His wrist communicator blinked red. Within seconds, alarms blared through the ship. Security breach detected. Royal chamber empty. He ran through the corridors, his boots echoing against the metal floors. Crew members stepped aside as he passed. "Where is she?" he demanded through the comms, but no one had an answer. All systems showed her life signal had disappeared from the ship. It made no sense. She couldn't have used the teleport chambers. They were locked by command code. Rylan reached the observation deck, breathing hard, scanning the view beyond the glass. The planet Valoria shimmered below, its oceans glowing faintly green. For a moment he thought he saw movement near the lower hangar bay. He rushed there, his hand on his blaster. The door was slightly open and cold air hissed through. Inside, the small escape pod chamber was empty. "Impossible," he muttered. "She couldn't have—" Something caught his eye, a flicker of light on the floor. Kneeling, he saw a small silver emblem lying near the control console. He picked it up and saw it was part of her crown, broken off. A soft blue light glowed from beneath it. He turned it over and found tiny engraved words pulsing faintly. "Catch me if you can." Rylan frowned, his heart thudding faster. Was she playing some kind of game? Or had someone taken her and forced her to write this? Either way, it wasn't good. The Admiral's voice echoed in his memory. "Protect her at all costs." Failure is not an option. He activated his wrist console, opening the tracking systems. "Locate Princess Lyra's biosignal." "Searching," the AI responded. Then after a few seconds, "Signal detected, moving fast toward Valoria's surface." She had launched herself toward the planet. Alone. Without clearance. "Damn it," Rylan muttered. He opened the hangar controls and ran to the nearest scout shuttle. "This is Commander Rylan. Launch authorization. Override code Delta 7. I'm going after her." The ship roared to life. As it lifted from the bay, the stars turned into streaks of light. He could feel the burn of entry as the shuttle dived toward Valoria's atmosphere, fire licking across the hull. His eyes stayed on the radar. The princess's signal flashed faintly ahead, descending into a dense jungle region filled with life readings. She was alive. For now. As the shuttle broke through the clouds, Ryland caught sight of a glowing crater below. The trees shimmered with bioluminescent light and something moved among them. Something fast. The AI's voice broke through the static. "Commander, be advised. Unidentified energy signatures detected near the princess's position." He gripped the controls tighter. "I'm not leaving her out there," he said. "Prepare ground landing." The shuttle touched down with a rough jolt. The moment the doors opened, the scent of alien air hit him. Sweet, strange, electric. He stepped out, scanning the shadows. The jungle around him glowed softly, the leaves breathing with light. Then, from somewhere deep within the trees, he heard a laugh. Soft, distant, familiar. Ryland raised his weapon and called out, "Princess Lyra," but all that answered was her voice carried on the wind, teasing and calm. "Catch me if you can, human soldier boy." His pulse quickened. She was close. She was alive, and she was playing a game he didn't yet understand. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary mission. It was only the beginning of something far more dangerous and far more personal. Commander Ryland stood at the edge of the glowing jungle, his pulse racing. The sound of Lyra's voice still echoed softly through the trees, teasing, almost playful. But underneath it was something else. Something haunting. The alien forest shimmered in shades of blue and green, its light shifting like breathing creatures. Every leaf seemed alive, humming faintly, and the air carried a sweet metallic taste that clung to his throat. He tightened his grip on his plasma rifle and took a cautious step forward. "Princess Lyra," he called again, his voice steady but strained. "You're in danger. You need to return to the ship." There was no answer, only the distant rustle of leaves and the strange musical hum that filled the night. Ryland's visor scanned for movement, picking up faint heat signatures scattered all around him. Some belonged to the alien wildlife, but one reading stood out. Humanoid, light, and fast. He moved quickly through the dense undergrowth, following the faint trail of glowing footprints. They were delicate, small, and pulsed faintly with purple light. Her footprints. They glowed for only a few seconds before fading away, as if the planet itself was erasing her path. Ryland followed, careful not to lose her trail until the jungle opened into a small clearing. There, under a canopy of glowing vines, stood Princess Lyra. She was barefoot, her long hair shining with faint light. She stood beside a pool that mirrored the stars above. When she turned to face him, her expression wasn't one of fear or guilt, it was calm, almost amused. "You found me," she said softly, smiling. "You're faster than I expected, human soldier boy." Ryland lowered his weapon slightly, frustration and relief mixing in his chest. "You risked your life for this?" he demanded. "Leaving the ship without escort, do you realize what could have happened?" Lyra tilted her head, studying him with those strange luminous eyes. "You humans," she said, "always worried about rules. I just wanted to see my planet again. The stars look different from the ground." "This isn't a game," Ryland replied firmly. "There are enemies watching. Your father's enemies. You're not safe here." For a moment her smile faded. "I've never been safe," she murmured. "Not on Valoria. Not in the palace. Not anywhere." She looked away, her reflection trembling in the water. "You think I ran away to make trouble, but maybe I ran to feel alive." Ryland hesitated. Her voice carried a sadness that didn't match her playful tone from before. "Then let me protect you," he said quietly. Lyra turned toward him again, her expression soft but unreadable. "You can't protect someone who doesn't want to be caught." Before he could answer, a sharp sound broke the calm, a metallic click, followed by the faint whine of energy charging. Ryland reacted instantly, pushing Lyra behind a large root as a plasma shot streaked past them, scorching the air. "Down!" he shouted, drawing his weapon and scanning the tree line. Shadows moved, 3, maybe 4 figures, armored and armed. Their armor was darker, marked with the sigil of the Valorian Syndicate. Mercenaries, bounty hunters. "Stay behind me," Ryland ordered, firing a short burst into the shadows. The attackers scattered, returning fire. Blue plasma bolts tore through the leaves, lighting the forest like lightning flashes. Lyra crouched low, her hand glowing faintly with the same light as her eyes. Who are they? She whispered. Bounty hunters, Ryland said grimly. They're after you. Lyra's eyes widened. Then they found me because of you. You brought them here. He shook his head, firing again. No, they were already tracking you. This is why you shouldn't have left the ship. She didn't reply. Instead, she raised her glowing hand toward one of the attackers. The air shimmered and a pulse of light burst outward, throwing the nearest bounty hunter back against a tree. Ryland blinked, shocked. What was that? Lyra didn't answer. She looked frightened, as if even she didn't fully understand her power. We need to move, she said quickly. There will be more. Ryland nodded, scanning the forest. The remaining bounty hunters were retreating, shouting something in their alien language. But as they vanished into the darkness, Ryland caught a glimpse of one figure lingering behind. Taller, cloaked, watching. The leader. Who is that? Ryland muttered. Lyra followed his gaze, her expression tense. That's not just a bounty hunter. That's Drax. He works for the Syndicate, and he won't stop until he catches me. Ryland kept his weapon raised, watching as the cloaked figure slowly disappeared into the trees. Then we don't stay here. We get back to the ship. Lyra shook her head. No, if we go back, they'll follow. We need to hide where no one can scan us. And where would that be? He asked. She looked up toward the glowing mountains in the distance. The Crystal Caves, she said. They block all tracking signals. But it's a long way, and the forest isn't safe at night. Ryland sighed, checking his ammo count. Then we better start moving. As they began their journey through the glowing jungle, Ryland couldn't help but glance at her now and then. She moved with quiet grace, but every so often he caught her watching him, curious, almost testing. You really think you can keep up with me, Commander? She asked, smiling faintly as she stepped over a fallen tree. He smirked. You're not escaping again, Princess. She looked back, her eyes gleaming like stars. We'll see. The forest whispered around them, alive with strange sounds. Somewhere behind, Ryland could still feel eyes watching. The bounty hunters, or worse. The mission was becoming more complicated than he had ever imagined. And as Lyra walked ahead, glowing softly in the darkness, Ryland realized something he didn't want to admit. He wasn't just following orders anymore. He was following her, but deep down he also knew this was only the beginning, and the real danger had just begun to wake in the shadows behind them. The alien jungle stretched endlessly before them, a living sea of glowing leaves and whispering trees. Commander Ryland moved carefully, scanning every shadow, while Princess Lyra walked a few steps ahead, her silver hair shining softly under the strange blue light. Each step echoed with quiet tension. Neither spoke for a long time. The only sounds were their breathing and the low hum of unseen creatures in the distance. Ryland's mind raced. The ambush earlier hadn't been random. Those bounty hunters had known exactly where to find them. That meant someone inside the Valorian system was leaking her location. And whoever Drax was, the man Lyra had recognized, he wasn't some ordinary mercenary. Finally, Ryland broke the silence. Princess, how long have these bounty hunters been chasing you? Lyra stopped walking, her back still turned to him. Long enough to forget what peace feels like, she said quietly. They want something that belongs to me. Or maybe something inside me. Ryland frowned. Inside you? What do you mean? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she crouched near a strange glowing flower, touching its petals gently. My father, the king, used to say I was born with a light that could save our people. But power like that never comes without a price. The Syndicate believes I carry a code in my blood, a map to an ancient weapon hidden somewhere on Valoria. Ryland stepped closer. So they're after the weapon? Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. No, they're after me. They can't activate it without me alive. He felt a chill. And your father? He knows, she said bitterly. That's why he keeps me under guard. Not because he loves me, but because he fears what I might do if I ever ran away. Ryland looked at her for a moment, understanding more than he wanted to. You didn't run to tease anyone, he said softly. You ran to escape a cage. Lyra smiled faintly, her expression sad. Maybe I did, but I didn't expect my new jailer to be quite so stubborn. Ryland opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, the forest around them went quiet. Unnaturally quiet. The humming stopped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath, Lyra froze, her eyes scanning the shadows. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Rylan raised his weapon, switching his visor to thermal view. Heat signatures, and several of them, moving fast from both sides. "We're surrounded," he said sharply. "Get behind me." Figures emerged from the shadows, armored bounty hunters, their visors glowing red. Drax stepped forward this time, tall and broad-shouldered, his armor black as night, his voice rough and metallic through his helmet. "Princess Lyra," he said, "your father offers a reward for your safe return. The Syndicate offers more for your capture. Either way, you're coming with me." Rylan stepped between them. "You'll have to go through me first," Drax laughed. "You think you can stop us, human? You're far from home. This is Valoria. The forest itself rejects outsiders." "Guess I'll take my chances," Rylan said, his voice steady. Blaster fire erupted in an instant. Rylan ducked behind a fallen tree, firing back. Blue plasma bolts cut through the glowing air. Lyra crouched low, her hand glowing brighter now, a pulse of energy forming around her. When one of the bounty hunters charged, she lifted her hand, and a wave of light burst outward, throwing him back against a tree with a flash. But the power took its toll. She staggered, gasping. Rylan grabbed her arm, pulling her to cover. "You're hurt." "I'm fine," she insisted, though her face was pale. "Keep shooting." Rylan reloaded, covering their escape path. 2 bounty hunters fell, but Drax kept advancing. He moved like a shadow, blocking every shot. His voice echoed through the forest. "You can't protect her forever, Commander. The Syndicate always collects what it owns." Rylan clenched his jaw. "She doesn't belong to anyone." He fired again, aiming for Drax's weapon. The shot struck true, knocking it from his hand, but Drax didn't flinch. Instead, he charged forward with surprising speed, knocking Rylan off his feet. The two crashed into the dirt, struggling fiercely. Drax's armored fist struck Rylan's helmet, cracking the visor. Rylan countered, jamming his knee into Drax's side and rolling away. Before Drax could recover, Lyra raised both hands, her eyes glowing bright white. "Enough!" she shouted. A sphere of blinding light exploded between them. The jungle shook. Rylan shielded his eyes as the world went silent for a moment. When the light faded, Drax was gone, vanished into the shadows once more. Only the scorched ground remained where he had stood. Rylan turned to her, breathing hard. "You shouldn't have used that power. You'll burn yourself out." She looked weak, trembling slightly. "I had to. He would have killed you." He helped her stand, steadying her by the shoulders. "You can't keep doing that every time. We'll find another way to fight them." Lyra looked into his eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're different, Rylan. You don't treat me like a princess or a weapon." "Why?" he hesitated. "Because you're neither. You're someone who deserves to be free." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them felt heavy, something unspoken passing between their gazes. Then Lyra turned away, breaking the silence. "We should keep moving. The caves aren't far." Rylan nodded, though part of him wanted to say more. He followed her through the forest, their shadows blending with the glowing trees. The danger wasn't over, he could feel it in his bones. Drax would be back, and next time he wouldn't fight alone. As they disappeared into the night, the jungle slowly came alive again, whispering softly behind them. Far away, hidden in the darkness, Drax stood on a ridge, watching their silhouettes fade into the mist. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "This is Drax," he said coldly. "They're heading to the crystal caves. Prepare the trap." The voice on the other end crackled with static. "Understood. The human won't survive the next encounter." Drax smiled beneath his helmet. "He doesn't have to. We only need the princess alive." The transmission ended and the forest went silent again. The hunt was far from over. It had only just begun. The twin moons of Valoria hung low in the violet sky, their pale light shimmering across the jungle canopy as Commander Rylan and Princess Lyra made their way toward the distant mountains. The air grew colder with every step, and the ground beneath their boots began to shift from soft moss to crystal-like stone. The glow of the forest dimmed behind them, replaced by a haunting silence that pressed against their ears. They had been walking for hours, saying little. Lyra moved quietly, her silver hair reflecting the faint starlight, her eyes glowing like distant galaxies. Rylan followed close, scanning for threats, his weapon ready. The battle with Drax still echoed in his mind. Every instinct told him the bounty hunter wasn't done, and that he'd strike again soon. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice breaking the silence. "We're close. The crystal caves are beyond that ridge. She pointed to a sharp peak rising against the horizon. Once we're inside, the energy there will hide us from every scanner, every tracker. Rylan nodded. And what happens after that? She hesitated, her gaze distant. After that? I don't know. We'll need to rest soon, he said. You're still weak from before. Lyra turned to him with a faint smile. You worry too much, Commander. Humans burn themselves with duty. And you aliens, he replied, seem to enjoy making that duty impossible. She laughed softly. The sound echoed off the stones like music. But then her expression softened. Thank you, she said suddenly. Rylan frowned. For what? For not giving up on me, she said. Most would have. I've been called a burden, a curse, even a weapon, but not once have you treated me like any of those things. He looked at her surprised. You're not a burden, Lyra, He stopped himself. You're someone worth protecting. Her eyes searched his face, reading what he didn't say. Then she looked away, cheeks faintly flushed with color. We should keep moving before I start believing you actually care. Rylan almost smiled. Maybe I do. Before she could reply, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low rumble echoed through the mountains, followed by a flash of orange light in the distance. Rylan turned sharply. That wasn't thunder. Lyra's eyes widened. No, that was an explosion. A moment later, his comm link crackled to life. Static at first, then a distorted voice. Commander Rylan. Come in. This is the Eclipse. We're under attack. Unknown ships approaching. Then the signal cut out. Rylan's jaw tightened. They found the ship. Lyra shook her head in disbelief. But how? The Eclipse was in orbit. They must have followed our heat trail during descent, Rylan said grimly. Drax knew where we'd land. He turned to her. We have to move faster. If they destroy the Eclipse, we'll be stranded here. They ran across the ridge, heading toward a narrow path that led down into the mountains. The air grew colder, and the faint hum of the caves began to vibrate through the ground. After what felt like hours, they reached the entrance. A massive crack in the mountainside glowing with blue light. Inside, crystal formations jutted out of the walls like frozen lightning. The air shimmered faintly with energy, and every sound echoed for miles. Lyra stepped forward, her hand brushing a nearby crystal. It glowed brighter at her touch, as if recognizing her presence. We're safe here, she said softly. For now. Rylan exhaled, lowering his weapon. You're sure? She nodded. The crystals absorb energy signals. No one can scan through them. It's why my people used these caves to hide during the old wars. Rylan took off his helmet, wiping sweat from his brow. Then we'll stay until we can figure out what to do next. They found a flat ledge deeper inside the cave and sat near a pool of glowing water. The silence was calming, almost unreal after the chaos outside. Lyra sat beside him, her reflection shimmering faintly in the blue light. Tell me something, Rylan, she said softly. Why did you join the fleet? He hesitated. Because I wanted to matter, he said finally. Back on Earth, I was nobody. The fleet gave me purpose, a reason to fight. She looked at him thoughtfully. And now? Do you still believe in that reason? He smiled faintly. I used to think duty was everything. Now I'm not so sure. Lyra leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe that's because you found something else to fight for. Before Rylan could respond, the cave pulsed with sudden light. A deep vibration rolled through the ground and the crystals flickered. Rylan stood quickly, scanning the area. What was that? Lyra's expression darkened. Someone just entered the caves. From the tunnel behind them came the echo of footsteps, and heavy, deliberate. Then a cold, metallic voice echoed through the chamber. You really thought you could hide, Princess? Rylan froze. Drax's voice. Lyra's hand glowed faintly, her eyes narrowing. How did he find us? The crystals. Don't block old Valorian tech, Drax interrupted, stepping into the light. His black armor gleamed with faint red symbols, and behind him 2 other bounty hunters emerged, weapons drawn. You should have known better, Your Highness. Rylan pulled his blaster, standing between Drax and Lyra. You'll have to go through me again. Drax chuckled darkly. Gladly, the cave erupted in chaos. Plasma bolts struck the crystals, sending flashes of light everywhere. Rylan ducked behind a rock, returning fire. Lyra raised her hands, channeling energy into a shield of blue light. Sparks exploded as Drax's shots collided with it. But Lyra's power flickered. She was weakening fast. Rylan saw it and made a decision. Lyra, run! Find another way out. I'm not leaving you, she shouted. You don't have a choice, he yelled back, throwing a plasma grenade toward the attackers. The explosion sent shockwaves through the cave, shattering crystals and filling the air with glowing dust. When the smoke cleared, Drax was gone again, vanished into the deeper tunnels. Rylan coughed, looking around. Lyra, I'm here, her voice came softly. She stepped out from behind a crystal, her face pale but determined. He's still alive. I know, Rylan said quietly. And he won't stop until he has you. She met his eyes. Then we stop him first. The crystals pulsed brighter around them as if the cave itself had heard her words. Outside, lightning flashed across the alien sky. Somewhere in the distance, Drax's voice echoed faintly through the tunnels. Run while you can, he said, his tone calm and cruel, because next time there won't be anywhere left to hide. Rylan and Lyra exchanged a silent look, both knowing the same truth. The mission was no longer about duty. It was about survival, and something far deeper than either of them wanted to admit. And as they stepped deeper into the glowing heart of the crystal caves, the faint sound of footsteps followed, too light to be Drax's. Someone else was down there with them, watching, waiting. The glowing walls of the crystal caves pulsed like a living heart, each beat echoing softly through the tunnels as Commander Rylan and Princess Lyra moved deeper inside. The air shimmered with faint energy, thick with mystery and danger. Every sound bounced off the crystals, creating ghostly whispers that made it hard to tell where anything came from. Rylan led the way, blaster ready, scanning the shadows that stretched endlessly ahead. Behind him, Lyra walked quietly, her hand brushing against the walls as if she could feel the pulse of the planet itself. Her silver hair shimmered in the blue light and her face looked calm, too calm for someone being hunted. Rylan glanced back. You're too quiet, he said. You're thinking about something. She gave a small smile. I'm always thinking about something, Commander. Usually about how to stay alive. Not funny, he muttered. You almost died back there. Those bounty hunters aren't amateurs. Lyra tilted her head. You're worried again. That's your habit. I'm paid to worry, Rylan replied. That's what protecting you means. She looked at him with a strange softness. You talk like it's just duty. But it's not anymore, is it? Rylan hesitated. The cave lights reflected in her eyes, and for a moment he couldn't look away. Let's just say, I don't like seeing innocent people hunted, Lyra laughed quietly. You're a terrible liar, Commander. Before Rylan could respond, a distant sound echoed through the cave, a metallic crack followed by a faint hiss. He instantly raised his blaster. Stay close. They moved carefully toward the sound. As they reached a wider chamber, the light grew stronger, dozens of crystals jutting from the walls glowing like stars. In the center was a platform covered in strange markings. Lyra stepped forward, her expression changing from curiosity to recognition. I've seen this before, she whispered. When I was a child, my father brought me here. He said the heart of Valoria was buried deep beneath these caves. Rylan frowned. Heart of Valoria? Lyra nodded slowly. A living source of energy, ancient, powerful. It's what keeps this planet alive, and what the Syndicate wants to control. Before Rylan could reply, the ground trembled beneath their feet. Crystals rattled and a deep hum filled the air. Lyra gasped, stepping back. The platform in the center began to glow brighter, symbols lighting up one by one in a circle. Did you touch something? Rylan shouted over the rising hum. I didn't, she started but stopped. The glow spread from the platform to her hands. The same blue light that always surrounded her now pulsed in rhythm with the crystals. It's reacting to you, Rylan said, eyes wide. Whatever this place is, it knows you. Lyra's voice shook. I can feel it, like it's alive inside me. Suddenly a voice echoed from the darkness. Cold, familiar. Exactly, because it is inside you. Drax stepped from the shadows, his armor cracked from the last battle, but his eyes burning with triumph. 2 Syndicate soldiers followed, weapons drawn. You've led me right to it, Princess. The heart of Valoria, and the key to activating it. Rylan raised his blaster. You're not getting near her, Drax smirked. Still pretending you can protect her? You don't even understand what she is. Rylan's grip tightened. Enlighten me. The princess isn't just Valorian royalty, Drax said. She's part of the weapon itself, created to control the heart. Her DNA is the activation code. The king has been hiding her for years, hoping no one would discover it. Lyra's face went pale. That's not true, she whispered. He told me my power was a gift. A gift? Drax laughed. You're a living weapon, princess. And soon you'll destroy everything you think you love. Ryland stepped forward, placing himself between them. You're lying. Am I? Drax said, raising his hand. He pressed a button on his gauntlet, and suddenly a holographic projection appeared. An image of the Valorian king standing before a council. His voice echoed coldly. The girl must never leave the palace. Her power is too dangerous to control. If necessary, she will be terminated before she falls into enemy hands. Lyra's knees almost buckled. No, he wouldn't. Ryland caught her before she fell. Don't listen to him. He's twisting the truth, but her eyes were full of pain. My father lied to me. My whole life. Drax stepped closer, his voice smooth and cruel. You see? You're better off with me, princess. I can help you unlock your true power. Together we could control the heart, rule every world in this system. Ryland aimed at him. You talk too much, he fired. The plasma bolt hit Drax square in the chest, but instead of falling, the bounty hunter absorbed the shot into his armor. The crystals around them reacted violently, flashing red. Energy rippled through the chamber, and the heart of Valoria pulsed like a living storm. Lyra screamed as light burst from her hands. Ryland grabbed her, trying to pull her back, but the force threw him across the room. He hit the ground hard, his ears ringing. When he looked up, Lyra was floating in the air, her eyes glowing pure white. Drax shielded his face. She's activating it, he shouted. The energy surged, shaking the cave. Crystals shattered, and lightning-like tendrils of blue light shot through the walls. Ryland struggled to stand, calling out, Lyra! You have to stop. I can't, she cried. It's taking control. Ryland fought his way through the storm, reaching for her. The light burned his armor, but he didn't stop. When he finally grabbed her hand, the energy slowed for just a moment, enough for her to look at him. Listen to me, he said, voice shaking. You're not a weapon. You're not what they made you to be. You decide who you are. Her eyes softened. Ryland. The light dimmed slightly, and she began to lower toward the ground. But Drax wasn't finished. He lunged forward, shouting, No! She belongs to me. Ryland turned just in time to see Drax's blade flash. He pushed Lyra aside and took the hit across his side. Pain shot through him, but he didn't let go of her hand. Lyra screamed, fury and grief mixing in her voice. The heart's light exploded outward in a wave that threw Drax across the chamber and out of sight. The crystals dimmed and silence filled the cave once more. Ryland collapsed, breathing heavily. Lyra knelt beside him, her glowing hands trembling. You saved me again, she whispered. Why? He managed a weak smile. Because someone had to remind you. You're more than what they say. She pressed her glowing hands to his wound. The light flowed into him, healing the cut slowly. Don't die on me, Commander, she said softly. Not now. He closed his eyes briefly, the warmth of her power flowing through him. Wasn't planning to. Outside, thunder rumbled through the mountains. Drax's voice echoed faintly in the distance, full of rage but still alive. This isn't over, he shouted. You can't run forever, Princess. Lyra looked toward the tunnel, her expression fierce. He's wrong, she whispered. This time we're not running. Ryland met her gaze. Then we fight. The crystals flickered around them as if agreeing, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The bond between them had changed something in the heart itself. It was no longer just a weapon. It was awakening, and its power now answered to them both. The storm outside the crystal caves raged like a living beast, lightning cutting across Valoria's dark sky. Commander Ryland and Princess Lyra stood at the cave's entrance, watching the horizon tremble with distant fire. Somewhere out there, Drax was still hunting them, and now he knew what Lyra truly was. Ryland tightened the straps of his damaged armor, wincing as pain shot through his side. Lyra noticed and stepped closer. You're still hurt, she said softly. I didn't heal you completely. I'll live, he replied, forcing a small grin. Besides, we don't have time to rest. If Drax survived that blast, he'll be back with reinforcements. Lyra looked toward the jungle below, her silver hair whipping in the wind. He won't stop. None of them will. Not until the heart is theirs. Then we make sure they never get it, Ryland said firmly. She turned to him, her expression torn between fear and determination. You don't understand. The heart isn't just power, and it's alive. It's connected to everything on Valoria. The trees, the oceans, even me. If I lose control, it could destroy the whole planet. Rylan studied her face, the faint glow in her eyes reflecting the stormlight. Then we don't let you lose control, he said simply. We fight smart. We stay ahead of them. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. You make it sound so easy. I'm good at pretending, he replied. For a moment, the tension eased. But then a sudden explosion echoed from the valley below, a bright flash lighting up the sky. Rylan grabbed his scanner. Incoming ships. Multiple signatures. It's Drax, and he's not alone this time. Lyra stepped beside him, eyes narrowing. The Syndicate. 3 dark ships cut through the storm, engines glowing crimson as they descended toward the caves. Massive dropships, armored, armed, and carrying dozens of soldiers. Rylan cursed under his breath. We can't fight that many. No, Lyra said quietly. But I can. Before he could stop her, she stepped forward, raising her hands. The air shimmered around her, energy pulsing from the crystals embedded in her skin. The storm responded, lightning bending toward her like metal to a magnet. Lyra, stop, Rylan shouted. You'll burn yourself out again. Her voice was calm but distant. If I don't, they'll find us. They'll take me, and this time they'll win. Rylan ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. You're not alone, remember? You don't have to face them by yourself. She looked at him, her expression softening. Then stand with me, Commander. For Valoria. The ground trembled. Energy surged through the cave like a pulse of light. The crystals began to glow brighter, reacting to her power and to his presence. Rylan's armor flickered, absorbing part of the energy. Somehow, the heart of Valoria was linking them together. The first Syndicate dropship landed at the valley floor. Drax stepped out, his armor scorched but functional, eyes glowing red under the helmet's visor. Behind him marched a small army of soldiers, weapons humming with power. He raised his arm, signaling the advance. No more running, Princess, he said coldly. It's time you accepted what you are. From the cave entrance, Lyra's voice echoed like thunder. And what's that, Drax? He smiled beneath his helmet. A weapon built to obey. Lightning cracked behind her, illuminating her figure in a flash of white-blue light. Then I guess I'm defective, she said. Energy exploded outward. A beam of pure light tore through the storm, striking one of the Syndicate ships and ripping it apart mid-air. Soldiers dove for cover as debris rained down. Rylan stood beside her, firing his blaster with deadly precision. Remind me never to make you angry, he muttered. She almost laughed. Almost. But then Drax raised his gauntlet and fired a pulse grenade. It hit the rock beside them, sending both flying backward. The cave shook violently, dust and shards of crystal raining from the ceiling. Rylan coughed, struggling to his feet. Lyra, she was on her knees, dazed but alive. I'm fine, she said weakly. Go, get to the deeper chamber. The heart can protect us. He helped her up, half carrying her as the cave around them crumbled. They raced through the tunnels, Drax and his men close behind. Plasma bolts sizzled past, lighting the walls with deadly flashes. As they reached the heart's chamber, Lyra stopped. The massive crystal core hovered in the center and alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. It's calling to me, she whispered. It wants me to finish what we started. Rylan's instincts screamed danger. Lyra, don't. Not until we understand what it'll do. She turned to him, eyes glowing bright now. Trust me, Rylan, just this once. He hesitated, then nodded. Always. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hands on the crystal. A wave of light burst through the chamber, blindingly bright. The Syndicate soldiers who entered next were thrown back instantly, their weapons disintegrating. Drax alone kept moving, forcing his way through the storm of energy. He reached for her, shouting, You can't stop it. It's not yours to control. Lyra turned, her voice calm but filled with power. That's where you're wrong. She spread her arms, and the heart responded. The entire cave began to glow, veins of light spreading through the rock like rivers of energy. Drax staggered back, overwhelmed by the sheer force. Rylan shielded his eyes, shouting over the roar, Lyra, you're overloading it. You'll destroy yourself. Her voice echoed through the chamber, distant but determined. If that's what it takes to end this, then so be it. No. Rylan ran toward her, fighting through the storm. Sparks burned across his armor as he reached her side and grabbed her hand. We end it together. The energy flared, brighter than anything before. Outside, the storm split open. light flooding the sky. The Syndicate ships were torn apart by the explosion of power, vanishing into dust, and then silence. When the light finally faded, the crystal caves were still. The heart's glow had dimmed to a soft, steady pulse. Rylan lay on the floor, half-conscious. He turned his head weakly. Lyra? She was lying beside him, her glow gone, breathing slowly but alive. He reached for her hand. She squeezed his faintly. "We did it," she whispered. Rylan smiled faintly. "Told you we'd fight smart." She gave a tired laugh. "You stubborn human." Above them, the crystals began to flicker again, gentle like stars in the dark. But somewhere beyond the mountains, a small piece of one of the Syndicate ships burned its way into orbit, transmitting a signal. A shadowed voice crackled through the static. "Subject alive. Proceed with Phase 2. The battle for Valoria was over, but the war for Lyra's freedom had only just begun. The sun rose weakly over Valoria, its pale light struggling through the mist that hung above the shattered valley. Smoke rose from the wreckage of Syndicate ships scattered across the horizon. The battle was over. For now. Commander Rylan opened his eyes to a faint hum echoing through the cave. His body ached, his armor scorched and cracked, but he was alive. The heart of Valoria still pulsed faintly beside him, its light dim but steady, like a sleeping giant. He turned his head and saw Lyra lying a few feet away, her silver hair spread across the crystal floor. She looked peaceful, her breathing slow, her glow completely gone. Rylan crawled over and touched her shoulder gently. "Lyra, hey, wake up." Her eyelids fluttered and she blinked up at him, confused. "Rylan, did we—" He smiled tiredly. "Yeah, we did. You saved us, again." She sat up slowly, looking around the chamber. "The heart. It's quiet now. Maybe it's resting," he said. "Or maybe it finally got what it wanted." Lyra's expression turned thoughtful. "No, it's waiting." "Waiting for what?" She looked at him with strange calm. "For me to decide who I am." Before Rylan could respond, a faint beeping came from his damaged wrist communicator. Static filled the air, followed by a distorted voice. "Commander Rylan, come in. This is Central Command. We've picked up a massive energy surge from your location. Are you still operational?" Rylan stared at it for a moment before replying. "This is Rylan, mission status. Complicated. The princess is safe. The threat is neutralized, human for now." There was a long pause on the other end. Then the voice replied, "Understood. Extraction team inbound." "ETA 6 hours, Lyra frowned. "Extraction? You're leaving?" He looked at her, unsure how to answer. "I'm under orders to return to command. They'll want a report. They'll want to study what happened here." She shook her head. "You know what that means." "They'll lock me up again, like my father did." Rylan sighed, rubbing his forehead. "If I don't go, they'll send others. Worse ones." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes shining with emotion now instead of light. "You said I could choose who I am. Doesn't that mean I should choose where I belong too?" He met her gaze, and for the first time, he had no soldier's answer. Before he could speak, the ground trembled slightly. The crystals around them flickered, and the heart emitted a low hum. Lyra froze. "Something's wrong." Rylan raised his weapon automatically. "Drax? No," she whispered, staring at the ceiling. "Something else." A voice echoed from deep within the cave, mechanical but unmistakably human. "Commander Rylan, Princess Lyra, you have done well to awaken the heart." Rylan's blood ran cold. "That's impossible." From the shadows emerged a tall figure wearing black and silver armor, bearing the insignia of Earth Command. His face was hidden behind a mirrored visor, but the voice was familiar, calm, calculated. "Admiral Voss?" Rylan said, disbelief in his tone.
"How did you—"
"The transmission you sent reached us sooner than you thought," the Admiral replied, stepping closer. "We traced the energy surge here. The Syndicate was a problem, but the real opportunity lies in the heart of Valoria itself." Lyra's glow flickered faintly in response to his presence, as though the heart didn't trust him. "Opportunity?" she repeated coldly. "You mean control." Voss smiled beneath the visor. "Control is survival, Princess. Your father understood that, and so do I. Humanity needs this power. With it, we can stop the Syndicate forever." Rylan stepped between them. "Sir, with respect, the heart isn't a weapon. It's alive. It responds to her, Then she will learn to use it, Voss said simply. Under our supervision. Lyra shook her head. I'm not a tool. Not for my father, not for the Syndicate, and not for you. The Admiral's tone hardened. You don't have a choice. Ryland's hand tightened around his blaster. You're not taking her. Voss tilted his head slightly. Are you disobeying a direct order, Commander? Ryland hesitated. Years of training screamed at him to obey. But then he looked at Lyra. The fear in her eyes wasn't for herself. It was for him. Yes, sir, he said quietly. I guess I am. The Admiral sighed. Then you've chosen your fate. He raised his hand and 2 armored soldiers stepped out from behind the crystals, weapons ready. Ryland reacted instantly and firing first. Plasma bolts ricocheted across the chamber, lighting it up like a storm. Lyra ducked behind a pillar, shouting, Ryland, stop! The heart, it's reacting. The crystals around them began to pulse violently again, glowing with the same unstable energy from before. Ryland fired again, hitting one of the soldiers square in the chest. The other lunged forward, only for Lyra to raise her hand, releasing a wave of force that sent him flying into the wall. Voss watched calmly, unfazed by the chaos. Impressive, he said, but uncontrolled. You'll destroy everything. Maybe that's what it takes, Ryland snapped. The Admiral's expression darkened. So be it. He pressed a button on his wrist, and the ground split open beneath the heart. A mechanical platform rose slowly from the depths, surrounding the crystal core with metal claws and emitters. Lyra gasped. What are you doing? Containing it, Voss said. Or, if necessary, harvesting it. Ryland fired at the machinery, but energy shields blocked the shots. Lyra stepped forward, fury blazing in her eyes. You can't take it. The heart will never belong to you. Voss looked at her coldly. Then prove it. The heart pulsed violently. Energy waves surged outward, throwing everyone off balance. The entire cave shook as the ancient force awakened once more, not in anger, but in defense. Lyra reached for Ryland's hand, shouting over the roar, We have to stop it. It's feeding on the conflict. Ryland gritted his teeth. Then we end the fight. Together, they turned their power against the containment field. Lyra's light merged with the heart's core, while Ryland overloaded his blaster to create a surge. The fusion of human technology and alien energy struck the machinery, breaking it apart piece by piece. Voss tried to counter, but the backlash hit him full force, sending him crashing to the ground. The heart's energy flared once more, then suddenly went still. Silence. Smoke. The faint hum of power fading. Ryland looked at Lyra, her hands trembling, her glow gone again. You did it, he said softly. She shook her head. We did. But as the smoke cleared, Ryland saw that the Admiral was gone. Only his cracked visor remained half-melted, reflecting the faint blue light of the heart. Lyra looked at it, her voice quiet. He'll be back. They all will. Ryland holstered his weapon and met her eyes. Then we stay ready. Together. For the first time, she smiled without fear. Together. Outside, the storm had finally cleared, revealing a dawn sky painted in gold and violet. But far above, in orbit, an Earth Command satellite turned its lens toward Valoria, recording everything. A new transmission began to beam silently across the stars. Subject escaped. Heart activated. Proceed to recovery phase. The war for control of the heart was far from over, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, new eyes were already watching. The sky above Valoria was clear for the first time in months, but peace felt like an illusion. From the high cliffs overlooking the glowing jungle, Commander Ryland stood beside Princess Lyra, watching the sunrise bleed gold across the alien horizon. The heart of Valoria pulsed quietly deep within the caves below. No longer angry, no longer unstable. It was calm, because she was calm. Ryland's voice broke the silence. Earth Command hasn't sent another signal in 3 days. Lyra glanced at him, the wind playing through her silver hair. That's not silence, Ryland, that's preparation. They're regrouping. The Syndicate, the Command. They'll both come back, he nodded grimly. And they'll bring armies this time. Lyra sighed, looking toward the horizon. So much power, and all they want is to control it. No one asks what the heart wants. Ryland studied her face. You make it sound alive. It is alive, she said softly. It feels everything. It remembers every hand that's tried to claim it. But now, for the first time, it's connected to someone who doesn't want to use it. Ryland's eyes met hers. "You mean you?" She smiled faintly. "No, us." Before he could reply, his communicator flickered to life with static. "Commander Ryland, this is Central Command." "Respond immediately," he hesitated. Lyra watched him carefully. The voice continued, cold and commanding. "You are ordered to return to base. Bring the princess with you. Failure to comply will be considered treason." Ryland exhaled slowly. "They never change, do they?" Lyra's tone was quiet but steady. "You don't have to answer them. Not anymore." He looked down at the device, thumb hovering over the switch. For years, he'd lived by orders. But now, standing beside her, he realized something. Following orders had never saved anyone. He pressed the button and spoke. "This is Commander Ryland. Mission terminated." "Repeat that, Commander." He shut it off, crushed the communicator in his hand, and tossed the broken pieces into the wind. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "That was your connection to Earth?" He nodded. "Yeah, I guess I just quit." For the first time in days, she laughed softly, a sound so genuine it made his chest ache. "You really are reckless, human soldier boy," he smiled. "You started it, Princess." Their moment was cut short when a deep rumble shook the ground. The sky above them shimmered, not with storm clouds, but with the distortion of descending ships. Sleek, silver vessels bearing the insignia of Earth Command. Lyra's expression hardened. "They're early." Ryland grabbed his weapon and checked the charge. "Of course they are." The ships landed in the valley below, kicking up waves of dust. Dozens of armored soldiers marched out, led by someone Ryland never expected to see again. Admiral Voss. He was alive. His armor scorched and cracked from the last battle, but his eyes burned colder than before. A cybernetic implant now covered half his face. "Commander Ryland." His voice thundered across the field. "Stand down and surrender the princess immediately." Ryland's jaw tightened. "You don't learn, do you?" Voss's metallic arm sparked faintly as he raised it. "You betrayed your world for her. Do you even know what she's capable of?" Lyra stepped forward, her voice ringing clear. "I know what I'm capable of, Admiral. I'm capable of choosing not to destroy." "Then prove it," Voss snapped. "Surrender the heart, or I'll take it from your corpse." He raised his hand, and his soldiers opened fire. Blaster fire filled the valley, lighting the dawn with streaks of red and blue. Ryland returned fire, his armor flaring with each hit. Lyra lifted her hand, summoning a protective barrier of shimmering light. The blast dissolved against it like waves crashing on stone. But the strain showed. Her breathing quickened, her glow unstable. "Ryland!" she shouted. "There are too many." He moved closer, firing between bursts. "Then we make it count." Voss strode forward through the smoke, unstoppable. His cybernetic arm absorbed blaster bolts like they were nothing. "You can't win, Commander," he bellowed. "You can't protect her forever." Ryland's voice was steady. "Watch me." Then, without warning, Lyra's shield shattered. The shockwave threw both of them back. The ground split open, revealing a surge of blue light, the heart beneath the surface reacting again. Voss saw it and smiled. "There it is." He aimed his gauntlet, releasing a beam of dark energy that pierced the ground and connected with the heart. The entire planet trembled. Crystals across the valley glowed brighter, lightning crackling through the sky. Lyra screamed, clutching her chest. "He's trying to control it." Ryland crawled toward her through the chaos. "Then don't let him." She met his eyes, pain flickering behind the light. "If I fight him, I might destroy everything." Ryland grabbed her hand. "Then we control it. Together, like before." She stared at him for a moment, then nodded. They stood side by side, hands linked, and reached for the energy pulsing beneath them. The heart responded instantly, recognizing them both. A massive surge of blue light erupted upward, engulfing the valley. Voss's soldiers were thrown back, their weapons short-circuiting. Voss screamed in fury, struggling to maintain his hold on the heart's energy. "You can't stop me. Humanity needs this power." Lyra's voice echoed like thunder. "No one needs this power." The light intensified, rising higher until it swallowed the sky. For a heartbeat, everything was pure silence. Then the energy collapsed inward, vanishing into the heart. When the light faded, the valley was still. The soldiers were gone. The ships were gone. Only Voss remained, kneeling, his armor smoking. He looked up weakly at Lyra. What have you done? She met his gaze with calm eyes. Set Valoria free. The heart's glow dimmed to a gentle pulse, no longer a weapon but a living, breathing soul at peace. Rylan helped her stand. You okay? She smiled softly. I finally am. They looked out at the horizon together. For the first time, there was no sound of engines, no blaster fire, no alarms. Just the wind. Rylan exhaled slowly. So what now? Lyra turned to him, eyes bright. Now we rebuild. Not as a soldier and a princess, but as two people who finally have a choice. He smiled faintly. You and me against the galaxy, huh? She laughed. That sounds about right. As they walked down the valley hand in hand, the heart of Valoria pulsed one last time, sending a ripple of light across the sky. Like a farewell, far above, unseen by either of them, a small beacon blinked in the ruins of Voss's armor, transmitting silently into deep space. A cold, mechanical voice replied, signal received. Phase 3 initiated. Prepare the awakening. Lyra stopped, sensing something in the distance, a shiver in the force of the planet itself. She looked at Rylan. It's not over, is it? He shook his head slowly. No, but whatever's coming. He squeezed her hand tighter. We'll face it together. The camera would slowly pull back, showing the two of them walking through the glowing forest. The first light of dawn breaking across the alien world. Peace, fragile but real, resting on their shoulders.